Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show, in studio with Jennie Restrepo, Insured Title Agency. We're going to talk about the sinkhole that opened up recently in Tampa as well. The one that killed a man back in 2013 reopened for the third time in 10 years and more. Also with Jennie on some of the recent true crime, attempted crimes in the real estate space. There's a lot of scams out there. You got to protect yourself, be diligent in the real estate world. Before we do, a couple of hot listings from our real estate team, the Platinum MVP team at Keller Realty. We got a property here at 1050 Farmingdale Lane in Newport Richey. This is a new listing to the team. Just hit the market. 4 bedrooms, 3 bath. 3-car garage. You have a pool, 2,217 square feet, corner lot location, high ceilings, natural light, updated kitchen, black marble countertops, white cabinetry, updated modern elegance of white porcelain tile floors throughout the home. Beautiful property. Got a marble tile around the fireplace, adds a luxurious feel and a focal point in the living room. Farmingdale Lane. Beautiful property here in Tampa Bay. Also, 605 Monterey Avenue in Clearwater. Monterey is a pool home, and you have no neighbor to one side. You have a beautiful pool area, screened in as well, screened in lanai, non-evacuation, non-flood zone. 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 2,163 square feet. 605 Monterey Avenue in Clearwater, Florida. You can see all of our listings at PlatinumCoastalElite.com. Jennie Restrepo's in the house, Insured Title Agency, continuing our true crime and attempted true crime series. You are always full of great stories, Jennie.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad to be back. And so one time I wish I can come in and say there's been no new crime, because obviously that would be good for all of our consumers listening to the show, but I am proud to say that we are crime fighters, and so all of these stories, none of them have gotten the fast one over on us, so yay, and we obviously want to share what's going on in Tampa Bay to protect all of the listeners and our agent partners out there. Yeah. Well, this one isn't a new one, but I was shocked to find out that, so this is about death and murder.
Oh, boy.
If you murder the person you cohabitate with in your primary residence, you clearly cannot profit from your crimes if you commit murder. But if you're charged with manslaughter, you can.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, we had a property come through where the gentleman who was the homeowner and only person on title was married. He manslaughtered, so it wasn't murder. He killed his wife.
Killed, but it was not premeditated, or there's some kind of way
That's for the courts and the attorneys to decide. Yeah. We just had to sit back and wait for what they decided. But ultimately, because this man was charged with manslaughter instead of murder, he technically could have kept all of the proceeds from the sale of their marital home.
Wow.
Because technically, if he passed away before her, as the marital home, all of the rights of the home would go to the remaining spouse. Mm-hmm. So had she died of natural causes, the home is his 100%. If he would have been charged with murder, which again is not up to us, but if he would have been charged with murder, then he would not have been entitled to any of the proceeds of the house, because you can't profit from the crime of murder. Yeah. However, because it was manslaughter, and we had to talk to our legal counsel and our underwriters to understand how the law observes this as far as the distribution of proceeds. And ultimately what ended up happening is the man is in prison, I'm assuming for life. He decided to settle with her children, which I guess are not his children. He did decide to settle with her children, but all of the attorneys said, if he wanted to fight it, he probably could have gotten everything from the sale of the house, even though the only reason he was 100% entitled to it is because he killed his spouse.
Was this a local story?
Yes. This is a real file that we
Pinellas?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
You can Google it. But yes, this is a real file that we closed it. I mean, the buyers were not involved in any way, wanted the house, and the man is in prison and clearly didn't have any money coming in. So for whatever his motivations were, at least he did settle with the children, and they did get some of the money from the proceeds of the house.
Yeah.
But if he had the money to continue with his attorneys, there is a chance that the legal definition is he might have been entitled to all of it and the children, none of it.
Right. That's what's crazy about the law sometimes. Technically, it's this way, but, we know morally, ethically, it should have been a different way. And, and kind of an interesting side note is that sometimes you get this question, this scenario where did the person die in the home?
Right.
Do you have to disclose that?
No.
You don't.
So legally, regardless of how the person passes away, it is not, because agents like Brandon and his whole team have required disclosures.
Yep.
So if you're aware of there being flooding or termites or Chinese drywall, those are mandatory disclosures. The seller is required to fill out a seller's disclosure. But whether someone passes away or is murdered in the home is not a required disclosure.
Yeah, it's not a material fact that's going to affect the value of the property.
Well, depends on if you believe in ghosts.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
But bringing up the topic of someone passing away, there's a lot of misconception out there about what happens if a family member passes away. And this is not extraordinary circumstances, just naturally passes away, whether they're in the home or they've left the home and they're in a nursing home or a hospital setting. When someone passes away without a will, did you know that Aretha Franklin passed away without a will?
I heard about that.
Her house was one of the things. So Aretha Franklin, you cannot believe this, passes away without a legally recorded will. She had like $18 million, I guess, as part of her estate. Yeah,
well, there's two different... there's one that it's a certified copy or notarized copy, but there's also a handwritten copy. Right.
So the courts decided that a handwritten note shoved in her couch cushions is the will that determines what happens with all of her things.
Yeah.
So let's not go out like Aretha Franklin. This is the lesson to be learned, because that was 3 years ago that they've been trying to unwind that. So if you have a family member, honestly, or yourself, if you own a home, if you have children, get these things sort of squared away, because you never know what can happen, and your property sometimes is one of your biggest assets that has monetary value that you would want to go to the person that you would want it to go to. And if your children are minors, they cannot inherit. So if you have minor children, you need to designate someone to be the beneficiary of anything that you would designate to your children, or set up a trust. Again, not an attorney, but making this idea that you should seek legal counsel and getting this all set up properly, correctly, and recorded with the court. Because if a family member passes away, even if there is a will that specifically designates, I want my home to go to this person, it still has to go through probate. And so probate is the process where the court now reviews all of the legal documents and makes a final ruling as to what was the intention of the deceased person. The only situation where a home will not go through probate is if it is a spouse, a married couple. So now, let's say that this person has been married more than once. Children of first marriage, not entitled on a higher level than current spouse.
Right.
So a marital relationship supersedes your children or heirs.
Dowry rights, right? Is that what they're called?
And I'm not sure if it's that, but if there is no spouse to the person who's deceased, then oftentimes they'll look to the biological children. But when there's more than one marriage, more than one child from this side or that side, ultimately, it's better to have a will or to have, there is such a thing as a life estate. So you can have a life estate with remainder men. So if you are a single person, you own a home, you can have a life estate where I own my home my entire life. I can sell it. I can do what I want with it. But upon my passing, the remainder men would then have my rights to my home. So I could designate my mom or my sister. My daughter's only 8, so you cannot designate a minor child as a recipient because minors cannot inherit.
Right.
So you can set up a trust, though. You can own your home in trust, and the beneficiary of the trust could be you want the money to go to your child, and you have like a trustee that makes sure that that happens. So there are ways to do that, but just leaving it for chance. I had a neighbor ask me about a house where he said, "Oh, I've talked to the daughter. The mom passed away, and the house is now in disrepair." And he's like, "I don't know what she's going to do with it." So I, being the little researcher that I am, looked at the address and I said, "Oh, unfortunately, this is getting auctioned off for back taxes."
Wow.
And the back taxes are only $10,000.
Wow.
A lot in Seminole Heights is worth way more than that.
Yeah.
So if the daughter had the 10 grand to pay it off, she could. But if it goes to tax auction, the highest bidder will get it, and the probate claim for the house is taken. The tax sale supersedes the probate.
Yeah, so that's what a lot of real estate investors will do. They'll look for these different niches, these different opportunities, and unfortunately, it's around death, divorce, bankruptcies, out-of-state owners, tax deed sales, taxes that are due in arrears, as Jennie was just explaining.
Yes.
So that's what these investors will look for. So you find those different situations. Jennie Restrepo here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, Insured Title Agency. Any questions you have about, we covered a lot of ground there. 727-263-3707. We can put you in touch with Jennie and her team at the title company. We also have attorneys associated with the program. We've got many different attorneys that can help you with these estate plans, these types of wills, trusts, and other advanced medical directives, things like that. 727-263-3707. ConsumerQB.com, as well as follow us online. We'd love to connect at CQB Show, at Brandon Rhymes 1, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. I want to get to this story next here, Jennie. So we have a sinkhole that opened up in Seffner. It's the same one from 2013 that reopened for the third time in 10 years. Hillsborough County officials and a remediation contractor surveyed the site at Faithway Drive on Tuesday this week. They started filling in the hole with gravel and water, the same method used in 2015. According to John Paul, he's director, Hillsborough County Code Enforcement. He says it's eerily similar to the one that opened up in 2015, roughly about the same size, 19 feet deep, 19 feet wide, north and south, 16 feet east and west. So what's interesting, though, about these sinkholes, and you find them in these farming areas, is at least the way it's been explained to me, is that it deals a lot with the water. When we're pumping, we've had a very dry spring. Right, so farmers are pumping, landowners are pumping water from the aquifers. That's causing issue, and I believe that's what happens sometimes when the soil gets loosened up. It opens up these sinkholes. So it kind of goes back to these water wars that happen and again, it's rural areas competing with city areas as well.
Well, the story, my heart goes out to this family because the original story is horrific, that a gentleman was sleeping in his home and a sinkhole just opened up and swallowed him. How terrible is that?
Yeah.
The question came up clearly from the picture, if you're watching it on YouTube, is that they have not built a house there, thank goodness. So we, in the studio, looked it up, and it looks like the county has taken over that land and is deeming it conservation so that nothing will be built on it. But, the ground in Florida is like Swiss cheese. And there's not a lot that we can do to fight that I'm aware of. And I guess I'm glad that Hillsborough County took this seriously and didn't just allow this land to get sold to some other unsuspecting person and then this happens again. But it's definitely something to be aware of if you have sinkholes in the area. If you're looking at homes, remediated sinkholes technically have been properly repaired by structural engineers and the ground is reinforced and it's a process. So it should not necessarily dissuade you.
Well, they say they're better because it's already been repaired.
Well, if it's done properly and it's certified by a structural engineer and there's tons of paperwork that goes along with that and certifications, if it is, then you probably are in a better advantage than not, because the ground has actually been fortified. And
they're shooting it down into the lime rock or whatever's down there, right? They're tying in these big metal and they're pumping in concrete. So it seems to be, it's almost as similar to building on piers like we built our house, because we're on a lake. So we, around the lake you have a lot of these organics in the ground. So it makes sense. You got to bite the bullet, pay extra money to have basically these telephone poles pounded in the ground 40 feet down, tying your foundation into that. So it's a similar process. But it's still, some people, they hear the word sinkhole, repaired sinkhole, doesn't matter. They're running away from it. They're going the other way. I've had listings like that. But really, it's better than not having it, because you found the problem and you've taken care of the solution.
Yes, in certain areas are more susceptible to others, but it's my understanding that a sinkhole can happen anywhere here in Florida. So definitely be aware of those. If you feel like you're seeing cracking and things like that in your home, reach out to the show, find an inspection partner. Don't delay on some of those warning signs.
Right.
You know, when it comes to real estate, sometimes you saw the red flags, just like if you're dating, you saw the red flags, but you did not take them seriously.
Yeah.
So I would say with your home being one of the biggest investments, do not delay. It's worth the investment to have a professional out and make sure that things are good and safe in your home.
That's right.
Just like the Surfside condominium collapse, there were 1,199 red flags at that property that no one took seriously.
Yeah, and condos are another issue in Florida.
Certainly.
Jennie, how do you want people to connect with you?
Well, connect with me on the socials. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, at Insured Title Agency. It's where I post a lot of the stories that we talk about, a lot of the information. This month in July, I'm posting a lot about home ownership opportunities and some of the new programs that the Florida legislature passed this legislative session, including Hometown Heroes is for all of us now.
That's awesome. Yeah, they opened it up. It's not just firefighters, police, etc. Good stuff. Always a pleasure. Jennie Restrepo, find her online on all the socials and, of course, online at consumerqb.com as well. Thanks, Jennie.
Thank you for having me.
All right, good stuff. Taking a quick break. Coming back, Alex Lima, Black Belt Fitness and Martial Arts in studio. We're going to talk about this movie, Sound of Freedom, as well. The blockbuster movie that is, some media outlets are trying to cover it up. They're trying to squash it. Disney even held on to the script and didn't allow the rights to be sold for quite a while, at least the story I heard. More with Alex Lima coming up here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Hey, this is Grant Cardone, and you've been listening to the phenomenal Brandon Rhymes, the Consumer Quarterback Show.